You can go ahead and start the meeting now.
Great, thank you. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order for today's Livermore Amador Valley Transit Authority. It is April 4th at 4 p.m. In accommodations with the coronavirus advisory and meeting procedures, this meeting is being held virtually. And anybody that would like to listen or be involved in our meeting to participate, please use our please go to our website where there's active links, or call into our phone to participate by phone. All right, so with that, could we have a roll call of our members?
Yes, Director Bonanno.
Here.
Vice Chair Halbert.
Present.
Director Hernandez.
Here.
Director Josie.
Here.
Director Kick.
Here.
Director Narum.
Here.
Chair Brown.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Terrific. All right, meeting open to the public is our agenda item 3. This is for an opportunity for the public to speak to items that are not listed on our agenda. We do ask that you hold your comments to approximately 3 minutes. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak on agenda item 3?
If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. I don't see anybody raising their hand currently, and we didn't receive any comments via email.
Terrific. Okay, thank you. All right, agenda item 4 is a March update for our Tri-Valley Accessory Advisory Committee members. Do we have anyone that would like to speak to this item?
I'm promoting Herb over as a panelist right now.
Herb, you're on mute. Can you take yourself off mute? There you go.
Be glad I wasn't after what I just said about my own face.
Welcome.
Otherwise, hello, everyone. I'm here to give the March meetings report for the Tri-Valley Accessibility Advisory. Let's see, what do we do? The staff gave the update on the annual program submitting procedures for ACTC, the Measure BB funding, and their planned report for the applications that they turned in. And to make you guys feel a little comfortable, I'm on the selection committee for LAVTA this time. Again. Let's see. Then we're currently reading, you'll notice that the applications for the current terms for current members, or the recruitment for new members for the TAC committee was talked about, and the list should be in your packets. Let's see. And then we talked about the latest update on the SAV vehicle phase 2, known as the unfortunate toaster vehicle of ours that we're going to miss. And then we had our PACO report for the last couple of meetings that we had. And then the service issues were, Carmen had brought up an issue regarding, there's a item in the bus in the 16s and the 1700s that she was concerned about distance and spacing. And I did talk with Tone regarding this feature or item in the bus. And so that was really the only service concern that they had. Otherwise, the meeting was relaxable and enjoyable, and hopefully you guys all saw the Madam bus during the St. Patrick's Day, which was in the parade. It was a very nice day.
Good.
Otherwise, that's my report. Does anyone have any questions?
All right. I guess they just reached out to talk to you directly, or they read the minutes which are in our packet. All right. Thank you, Herb. Great job. Yes, the Madden bus cruising all around town. It's really a fun bus to see.
And I would like to see it at the fair.
All right.
All right.
Take
Thanks
that under
again.
consideration. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. I'm going to close. Do we have anybody wishing to speak on this agenda item other than Herb?
If anyone would like to speak in the audience, please raise your hand. I don't see anybody raising their hand, and we didn't receive any public comment on this item.
All right, I'll close the public hearing then on that one. And agenda item 5 is our consent agenda item. Those are considered routine in nature and normally approved by a single vote. Would anybody like to modify the agenda? If so, raise your hand. Okay, before we look for motions, do you have anything? I should have just asked for the whole meeting, but do you have anybody that would like to speak on the consent agenda item number 5? Raise your hand if you're in the virtual world.
I don't see anybody raising their hand as an attendee. And again, we didn't receive any public comment via email.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Okay, so I'm looking for comments, questions, or a motion on agenda item 5.
Move approval on the consent calendar.
Thank you.
Second, Josie.
Okay, we have a motion made by Bonanno and seconded by Josie. Any comments? All right, let's take a roll call vote.
Director Bonanno,
Aye.
Vice Chair Halbert,
Oh,
Director Hernandez, Director Hernandez. Can she hear me? Let's move on. Director Josie,
Aye.
Director Kick, Director Kick, and Director Narum.
Aye.
Chair Brown.
Aye.
Let me try Melissa one more time. Melissa Hernandez.
Jennifer, she texted me and said she might have to step away for a second.
Okay. The motion passes.
All right, terrific. Thank you very much. And if anybody is hearing the vote by our supervisor, Halbert, he is in a vehicle. So there's unusual sounds in the background. So we are looking forward to item 6, which is the Atlantis Transit Facility Bridging and Design Services update. Sorry, I will turn that off. Thought it was on.
I think we were actually going to move to agenda item 7 because David wanted to be a part of that particular agenda item. He's not going to be able to attend for very long.
Okay, so we'll move agenda item 6 to, he just wants to be a 7, so we can move it and just swap 6 and 7. Is that what you're saying? Would
Correct.
meet the needs of the supervisor? Okay, well
Yes.
then let's hop forward to authorize of the executive director to execute a modification to the agreement with MV Transportation regarding an employee wage and adjustments and or a bonus. Yes, staff, please.
Michael, do you want to do a quick introduction? You just want me to dive into the?
I'll do just a big picture introduction, and then you feel free to take it from there, Tony. In the public transit space all across America, it's becoming more and more difficult to not only obtain employees, but to retain them. And so there's a real effort nationwide to address pay increases so that public transit operators and support staff receive a wage that's competitive in the market. And on top of that, I think there's a couple of other things, obviously, that public transit operator or agencies are doing. Certainly, they're looking at work conditions, which we are. And we can elaborate more on that if you'd like. And they're also just looking at the purpose of public transit as they talk to the community about opportunities to become bus operators. And that can range from equity to other types of social and racial and even climate issues. But our main issue here with LAVTA, as we look around at the environment of other operators and trying to bring on board operators into the wheel system and retain them, we're finding that we fall short in regard to the operator wage. So, Tone, you've been working with MV, our contractor who supplies our operators with our union Teamsters and others to provide a package to present to the board for consideration so that we can be competitive with that important wage. So I'll turn it over to you, Tone, and then as we come to a conclusion, if there's some additional comments, I'll make them then.
Thanks, Michael. Good afternoon, board of directors. I hope everyone knows this was Michael's initiative, but being a great leader that he is, he always gives credit to his staff. You know, that's one of the many qualities I'll miss most about him, along with his progressive vision. But I think we can save the mushy stuff for later. For now, let's dive into the report. As Michael mentioned, the job market has been grim from an employer's perspective, but it's a great time to be an employee. Just look at our executive director. But on a serious note, both LAVTA and our contractor MV Transportation have been partnered throughout the pandemic to offer various sign-on and referral incentives and safety and retention bonuses to keep our buses rolling. But even with these efforts in place, we could barely hire enough drivers to backfill for attrition. So through a comparative wage analysis, we found that our pay is just not enough to compete with similar position in the area. Thus, staff is proposing to increase the wage scale through the CBA as a multi-pronged approach to not only attract new drivers, but to make the rest of the wages equitable and help retain the whole workforce. Both LAVTA and MV will contribute to fund this proposal. While the wage increases won't be a complete solution to the labor shortage, they should go a long way towards improving recruitment success and retention. Staff will monitor and continue to work to navigate industry trends and job markets as they evolve. In addition to focusing on the frontline operation staff, LAVTA also recognized that other staff from both LAVTA and MV have been integral to keeping essential services in place for the public. I know it might sound cliche, but it does take a whole village to keep our community mobile and connected. We feel it's important to morale to recognize hard work, dedication, and commitment to work excellence, and propose to do so through a one-time appreciation bonus of up to $1,500 per employee. Before the proposal was finalized, staff took a deep dive into our finances. We look at our financial picture to ensure we could sustain these changes in the near term and over the next 5 years. For this year, because of the unrun in purchase transportation due to us not being able to ramp up service as planned, the proposed amount of $351,000 can be accommodated within the overall FY22 budget. Staff will bring the proposed FY23 budget to the FNA meeting later this month for a more in-depth discussion. But in looking at the next 5 years, assuming that the revenue forecast and the level of expenditure follow historical trends, even with the increase in the wage structure, LAVTA will continue to maintain a balanced operating budget. So that concludes my report, and Michael will be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions from, oh yes, committee or member Hernandez?
Hi, thank you, Chair. I just had a question. Would this just be a 1 year? Or are we looking to anything in the future for the second year by any chance?
That's a great question. The appreciation bonus of $1,500 per employee is a 1 year deal, and then the wage increase will be, we're basically changing the base year by increasing the pay scale. So in the CBA, it has an escalation factors of about 2%. So it's just going to build on top of the base year, if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. I would just want to maybe for us consider, since they were essential workers, and we are paying for the 1 year, that we consider just to see if there's any extra funds for next year to potentially, to be able to provide that as well. I know that some cities, were able to give some of their city managers a bonus for the first year. But since we didn't do it the first year, because I know that we're looking at funding, which I completely understand, I would just ask the question to the board if it's something they want to consider for maybe the following year as well, if we do have the funding, of course.
Great, thank you. So just to add on to what Member Hernandez mentioned, so we give them 1,500, but it's a bonus, not salary. Is that right?
Yes, that's
The
correct.
bonus, so therefore next year would not be built upon that bonus. If somebody got a 5% increase next year, it won't have that $1,500 within. Okay. All right, thank you. Board Member Naram? You're mute. You're on mute.
In the staff report, with regard to the bonus, it talks about or uses the words up to 1,500 per employee. Does that mean, is there some plan to, evaluate case by case, or can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Sure. That's a really good question, because in the past, when we administer similar programs, there's tend to be an equity issue. So if you're here 20 years, you will complain someone who's only been here 6 months get the same amount. So the up to amount is to make it equitable. So the distribution will be prorated based on their tenure here at LAVTA.
Okay, so that meaning that we have a very objective scale of how that's going to be paid out with the maximum of 1,500 per employee.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good question. Okay. All right, Board Member Bonanno.
Yeah, I had a question about the bonus as well, but just to clarify your answer, Tone, everybody will get something, and then it'll be prorated up to maximum service. And, people with the maximum service will get 1,500, but even the newcomers will get something.
That's correct.
Okay, great.
So the breakdown, if you want to know what it is, so the intent is to show our appreciation for kind of help us out last 2 years. So anyone who's been here 2 years will get the full amount, and anyone who's been here between 6 months and 2 years will get half the amount, and then anyone who's been here less than 6 months will get a quarter of it. So even you've been here 2 weeks, you'll still get something.
Great. I like that idea. I think it's just really important that aspect of it. Everybody gets a little piece of it. My next question is related to other parts of the compensation package. Do we feel, sort of a two-part question. One is, are we competitive on other aspects of the full compensation package for drivers? So we're taking care of the wages, we're giving appreciation bonus. Are there other aspects that we need to make sure we're going to be competitive? So my overarching question is, does this make us truly competitive, or is it just addressing one aspect of the issue?
I think that's the million-dollar question. We're hoping that these changes will make us competitive, because at the current moment, we are offering other incentives, as I mentioned earlier, retention bonuses, safety incentives. So the wage scale alone, I think, because we were on the low spectrum of the wage scale in comparison to similar positions that are being offered in the area, I think this will move us closer. But we, again, to just full transparency, we don't know this will solve the issue. We hope it does move the needle. That's why we'll continue to monitor very closely and continue to keep the board engaged in the discussion.
Okay, I mean, I'm sure you guys have studied this really carefully. I just think it's important to make sure we're not missing some other aspect of the operator and the other staff's compensation that's, less than their competition, and that we're going to find out that it wasn't just the wage, it was, but I think you have the right approach. I think monitoring carefully and seeing how the team reacts to this is the first step. So thank you very much for doing it. I think this is a good idea.
And to add on to that, these are absolutely critical to our bus service, and we so greatly appreciate the wonderful bus drivers that we have. Yep, and we want to keep them. All right, Board Member Kick.
Thanks for this. I'm glad that we're taking the wages of our contractors seriously, because it's a team effort to get them to agree to this too. And I'm glad that you involved the union. You mentioned that we weren't up to par. Can you give me an idea of where we are now? Are we in the middle? Are we at the top of low end? Are we at the low of top end? I mean, I have no idea what other bus wages are. So if you could give me some sort of idea of where we were and where we're at now. I know it's better, but I need to scale.
So at the time when we conducted the study, I believe it was 3 to 6 months ago, driver position that didn't require a commercial drive license were paying around $20 an hour. And the one that do require CDLs were paying around $22 to $24. More recently, one of our neighboring agency increased their starting pay from 23 to 26. So that completely flipped the scale, but we are comparable to like AC Transit and the other properties nearby.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Attorney Conran, when you raise your hand, should I call on you immediately, or because sometimes you may comment about a question?
Probably a good idea, but not critical here. Actually, Director Kick made the reference that I just want to make sure we were clear that while these are our drivers and that they drive our buses and they serve our customers, we have a contract with MV Transportation, and these are union employees who have a collective bargaining agreement with MV. We are helping MV sweeten the pot for the reasons explained. And I just point out that we have an option, actually 3 more one-year options with them. So the amount of money, the $351,000 here, is for the remainder of this fiscal year. You're going to have a decision to exercise that option with them for next year. And I think we'll get a number from them prior to that in terms of what these wages will cost. You also be able to look at your budget and see exactly what you can afford and how you want to work that out. So just want to make that kind of technical point because I think it's important. There is actually a legal reason not to create any confusion in terms of who's the employer. And I know in the past when we've given bonuses or other incentives to the drivers, we've had to be very careful about that. So with that, I'm done.
Thanks for the additional clarification. All right, I don't see anyone else's hands up. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak? I'd like to open the public hearing and ask to raise your hand if you are on the virtual version of our meeting, and so you can speak today.
Yes, there are 3 people that would like to speak. So we will start with Rich Fierro. Can you hear us, Rich?
Good afternoon, everybody.
You have,
How are you?
you have 3 minutes for public comment. You can start now.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I'm Rich Fierro with the Teamsters Local 70. I just want to thank Executive Director Tree for his grand vision, Tone Tran for actually doing the nuts and bolts, and I'm sure Tamara was in this somewhere if you were going over finances. So I just wanted to thank all of you and obviously speak in support of this issue. I think we view LAVTA and MV as kind of a 3-way partnership. It's not the first time I've been in front of the board before to speak about things. And I think you guys have always been forerunners. I wish all the boards were as forward thinking as you, as far as taking care of your drivers, you know, our MV's drivers through you and having the foresight to see. I think we're hopeful that this will actually kind of bridge the gap as well. And we would like to get you full staff so you can start running all the routes all the time. I know that's a big goal of the agency, and I think it's something that we're in alignment with. I think what we'll see on this is a lot of your mid-level drivers who are leaving will stay. I think most of your drivers that had a significant amount of time, that have time built into the retirement and the health and welfare aspect of the contract, have been staying. It's been your newer drivers to mid-year drivers who aren't completely vested in the pension plan or the company who are leaving. And I believe these are where the wages will help. Board member Bonanno had asked about that aspect of it. I think that's our view of it now. And where you stand as far as other contracts, I think for the other MVs we represent, you guys are in a pretty good position. As a negotiator, I always have ideas if people want to reach out to me of how we can improve things. But overall, this is a great step, and I really wanted to get on and say thank you to all of you and obviously speak in support. And I'm also available for any questions if anybody has any. Thank you.
All right. I don't see any hands raised. So thank you, Rich. I appreciate your call in. All right. Our next speaker.
The next one is Jeff Bain.
Hello. Hello, Jeff. Welcome to our meeting. You're on mute there.
Ask him to unmute.
Can you get?
Oh,
Can
there
hear
you
me
go.
now?
Yeah. Welcome.
Good afternoon,
to,
members.
Yeah.
You have
Good afternoon,
2
members.
minutes for public comment. You can start now.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Good afternoon, board. This is Jeff Bain, Senior Vice President of Operations for MV Transportation. Have the privilege of serving the LAVTA contract, working closely with Mr. Tree, Mr. Tron, and echo the sentiments that Rich just shared. Look, we are very excited about this package. We have valued this partnership for a number of years, and we see this as truly a team effort to allow us to continue to deliver service within the community. You know, we take these matters, and we've been working this for a significant amount of time. And while there is no crystal ball that the wage increase and the bonus structure that we have been working on for the last 3 or 4 months will solve all of our problems, I do believe that the strength of this partnership represents something that is unique in the industry, something that you all should be proud of, and something that I know that we will be able to leverage to continue to expand service, get back to pre-COVID levels of operation, and have a workforce that is energized and excited to serve your community. So it's with great privilege and pleasure that we continue to serve you. Thank you all very much. And I too am available for questions if you need anything.
Okay. All right. I don't see any hands raised, but thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you calling in, representing MV. And our next speaker.
Hi guys, it's me again. This time I'm asking questions regarding, this is not going to have a fare increase to recover the differences, are we? That's a big question I've got, as well as the rest of my friends. You're not going to increase fares on us, are you?
Tone or Michael, could you answer that question?
We have not anticipated raising fares, certainly not because of this issue here.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
Our finance director tightened the belt in other places so that we could offer this. So, right. Do we have any? Thank you.
I'm done.
Okay. Anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this agenda item?
That was the only person as an attendee, and I didn't receive any comments via email.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to our board for comments and motion or questions.
I'd like to I have a comment really quick. I do want to make sure that, and I'm sure staff is looking at, I think also that the benefits, the overall benefits are extremely important to keep in mind, because this is not only something that we're struggling with, but I also feel that other agencies, other transportation agencies, government agencies are struggling with being able to hire individuals. So I just want to make sure that we are providing as equal or even better benefits to our bus drivers so that they have a pretty good overall package versus just, necessarily in pay. It's always been, I think they should have good medical and dental, and that's just part of my history. When you always hear me talk, it's always going to be make sure they have a good medical plan and a dental plan and a retirement, that they have the ability to make and choose what they want their future to be. So I just want to make sure we keep that in mind. I do want to keep in mind that in the future, if we do have the funding to be able to provide a bonus. And so I know we have other comments by other board members, but with that, I will go ahead and move.
Actually, could you second? Because board member Josie made a motion. And
sure, I will second.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm looking for comments. This is a really important topic. Jean, would you like to go ahead and finish after your motion?
No, I just think it is super important. Thank you to for us to be competitive in the marketplace, to stay abreast of the wages that other agencies are providing, to make sure that we are treating our drivers and all of our employees well. So I appreciate the fact that we not only looked at wages of other agencies, but also are not just looking at driver salaries, but looking at appreciation bonuses for it just across the board, looking at our maintenance folks and our administrative folks and everybody. So I was very pleased to see that we had done that survey, that we had included all of our employees, that we have dived into the budget to make sure that this is sustainable, the wage increase, and that the one-time bonuses are doable within the current year's budget. And I'm looking forward to the Finance Committee's recommendation for the future years. Thank you for bringing this to us.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Kick, comments, questions?
Yeah, again, this is super important. We are not going to be able to hire people if we don't take care of them. So I just wanted to question, we have what I believe the packet said 5 years. There's a 5-year step plan. When will we be looking at this again? Do you anticipate, Tone?
So this item only addresses the remaining 3 months of the fiscal year. And then the next budget cycle is FY23, and that packet will be presented at the FNA meeting later this month.
Okay. And that's what's coming to FNA is a couple years.
We do a year-by-year budget, but we did project out what the financial picture looked like for the next 5 years. And
okay, that's what I'm confusing about.
Okay. And financially, we're sustainable for the next 5 years, even with these increases.
Perfect. So we're sustainable for 5 years. We'll look at it again next year to check in and see if we can do even better. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Board Member Bonanno.
Yeah, thank you. So I just concur with everything my fellow board members already said, and want to thank staff for being so proactive and moving this so quickly to us, which, it's one thing to have good intentions, it's another to actually make it happen. And I'll just say, since I've been on this board, which has not been that very long, I've seen this organization and board invest in their technology, in the buses themselves, in facilities. And I think most importantly, we're investing in the people who make it all matter. So thank you all very much, and really happy to support this.
All right. Okay, seeing no other raised hands, I'll go ahead and offer my comments. Thank you, MV, for bringing this to our attention. We were aware of the challenges of retaining our best drivers, and this is important to have that discussion. Bring it up to Tone and to Michael for looking how we can help supplement a dire need within the organization. I also want to thank our state and federal funders who've been providing us the money we need to run our organization. As Herb called in and was worried about and concerned about rates, as we all know, the fare box recovery is fairly low for our organization, especially during COVID, that most of our funding actually comes from state and federal sources. So that's really important that, that we continue successful grant applications so that we can compensate our drivers and our operators and everyone on the LAVTA MV staff. So thank you with that. I absolutely can support this. I know Supervisor Halbert wanted to be here, but it looks like he has dropped off. But hopefully someone can feed him back the final results of this discussion. So I'd like to have a roll call vote, please.
Director Bonanno.
Aye.
Vice Chair Halbert's no longer in the meeting. Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Josie.
Aye.
Director Kick.
Aye.
Director Narum.
Aye.
Chair Brown.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, now we're going to go back to what was our agenda item 6, but now agenda item 7, and that is the Atlantis Transit Facility Bridging and Design Services Update. Please, staff.
Hi again. So before I pass it to Kimberly Horn for the presentation, I would like to provide a brief background on the project. In October of 2021, the board approved a resolution authorizing the executive director to execute a contract task order with Kimley Horn and Associate in the amount of $992,200 for bridging and design services for the Atlantis Transit Facility. The funding for this phase was approved by ACTC during the commission's July 2021 meeting. The development of the bridging documents and 60% design set are well underway. The plan application was submitted to the city last week. So we have Anthony from Kimley Horn here today to provide a progress report on the project. Take it away, Anthony.
Hi, good afternoon, board members. Let me present my screen real quick. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. All right, so as Tonin mentioned, my name is Anthony. I'm with Kimley Horn as part of the project design team. I'm here to kind of give a quick project status update for the Atlantis Court Transit Facility since you guys last saw it back in, I believe, Q3, Q4 last year. As the board is aware, this is the location of where the transit facility is off of Atlantis Court and Discovery Drive. We have Isabel Avenue on the right-hand side here. This is the location of the new transit facility that we are looking at for the upcoming bus fleet. This is our site development plan that we've mapped out as a team. We've introduced a new driver training area in the center of the field. There is the existing wash and existing fueling station up here. We're introducing a hydrogen fueling station and a hydrogen pad at the northwest corner. Part of the development will include the maintenance building and an admin and operations building, as you can see in the site plan. We have two local architects that are working with us on the development of this transit facility. One is Heller Manis, who is located out in San Francisco. They are working on the admin and operations building. And then we have FMG Architects that is helping us with the design of the maintenance building. Here's a couple of renderings that that you may have seen before, but these are a little bit more up to date from when it was last previously shown. The feature of the building is the roof top. And then as you can kind of see, we've developed a little bit more detail as it comes to just outlining the landscaping, the courtyard, and the kind of the hangout and recreational outdoor areas. So here's a couple of additional photos for the admin and operations building. Photo 1 on the upper left corner is a view from Discovery Drive. Photo 2 is kind of a more zoomed in rendering of the driver's training area and break area for some of the drivers. 3 down here in the lower left corner is a break and an outdoor space for the employees. And then the 4th in the lower right quadrant is the entrance of the admin and operations building. For the maintenance building, you can kind of see that the architecture will similarly resemble the admin and operations building to kind of give it a more consolidated, cohesive feel. For the maintenance building, we added also an outdoor space for employees in the front of the building. And then we have another rendering here that is also showcasing kind of the outdoor space, the front of the building as well. A couple of developments since we've last kind of presented this project. We've had additional coordination and we've been working closely with the City of Livermore staff. As Tone had mentioned, we have submitted an application to the City of Livermore last week or 2 weeks ago for planning review. We've completed we've started on the hydrogen fueling and for the concept and design of the fueling station like we've talked about. We've introduced a driver's training area that we've seen already, and then we're adding some electric vehicle charging stations to the site that was not previously there before. As you kind of flip through the plan sets, from the plan sets, there's been quite a bit of evolution as we have gotten the plans to be more appropriate for planning level review. This includes refinement of the building exteriors, including development of material, refinement of the building interiors, including additional programming and layout functions, and then development of structural design and details that were previously conceptual. So again, this is kind of driver's training area, hydrogen pad that was developed. This is kind of the site plan as a whole that was submitted to the city of Livermore. Kind of a zoom in for a big part of the development was the hydrogen fueling. This is to accommodate the two-phase hydrogen fuel rollout as has been previously discussed. You can see that there's an initial phase 1 and then a phase 2 that will come later as the buses continue to roll out and as the transit center continues to add hydrogen fleets in each of the subsequent years. And then, as Tone had mentioned earlier, we've started the planning application process with the city. We had advanced team meetings, a pre-application with the city staff Q4 to kind of get their gut feel and development of the site. We submitted the planning documents last week on March 25th. Throughout the process, we anticipate kind of a 30-day window for city review. And then we anticipate generally a 6-month planning and processing period with coordination between city staff, our design team, and LAVTA staff to bring the project together. Once the city staff agrees that the application is complete, we anticipate moving forward to Planning Commission in the early fall. And that's all I had, Tone. Any questions, comments from any of the board members?
Yes, Board Member Bonanno.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. I'm wondering, you didn't mention what solar capabilities would be included on the facility?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good question. We're still developing the solar study for the building right now. We haven't fully started the solar portion of the project, but we are looking at the study to see what makes sense for either the building to be fully solar or some of the fleet or electrical power to be solar.
Okay, great. Will we hear about this project again before? I mean, will we get those final details, or is this our last bite at this apple?
Tone, I wouldn't imagine this to be your final last bite, but Tone can correct me if I'm wrong.
So can you go back to the last slide, Anthony, that shows the timeline?
Yep.
If I just saw it on the last slide and I missed it, I apologize for making you.
No, I'm trying to see how long before we get in front of the planning commission, if there's an opportunity for us to bring it back to the board. Is that around 6 months, Anthony?
Yeah, it should be a general 6 month. So we'll have 30 days for a city to kind of review, process the plans from now to kind of give us comments. And then once we get comments, there should be like plus or minus 4 to 5 month period before the plans get accepted for Planning Commission. So if we aim for anything, we can do another presentation right before Planning Commission. Once our application is complete, I think that will kind of give us a pretty good, robust project.
That sounds great. And I guess my final comment, you don't need to go back to the renderings. I just want to make a comment about having served on the Planning Commission in Livermore for a long time. We reviewed lots of buildings where they had these nice outdoor employee areas for breaks and such. Sometimes the problems are that they're, in the afternoon, they're like on the worst possible exposure, they're Western exposure, and they're not at all inviting for people to spend a little time outside. So I would just make sure we look at how those areas are positioned, and hopefully they're in an area that allows people to actually enjoy them in the hottest parts of the summer. That was all my comments. Thank you for that. It's exciting to see the progress of the project. Thanks.
That's a good point. Even if you're in the shade, it still can be over 100 during the summer months. Michael Tree, our executive director.
I just had a couple of comments. If you go back into 2020, we had just begun the conversation of whether or not to move forward with designing this campus. And I think it's helpful to remember that the current facility that we have on Route 10 was designed. I think we've got about 30 years underneath the roof here. It was designed for 40 buses to maintain 40, and our current fleet is 60. And so, it's been really difficult to stay up with the maintenance and have space. And so this facility will not only be designing for the 60, but for 100 buses, which will take you well into the future. And I thought back, when the board first started talking about this, I think there was some reservation as to whether the board should spend, over $1 million getting this project to 60% design. And the board authorized staff to move forward. Obviously, it's a design build project. So when you get to 60%, we anticipate putting out the bid documents and starting the final design and construction. And I think about 2 years ago, it was kind of, maybe it wasn't the rosiest picture for up and coming capital funding. And then fast forward to today, where you've made a lot of effort on this project. This is one of the marquee projects that went in for the TIRSIP funding. The maintenance facility and the hydrogen fueling station. That has $600 million in that TIRSIP project or TIRSIP program statewide. And it's anticipated that immediately when they award those $600 million worth of projects, they're going to immediately have another round of TIRSIP that will probably take the total package amount in the state to over $1 billion in this calendar year. So there's a lot of money. I really like your chances of getting this maintenance facility and this hydrogen station at a bare minimum funded. And then you have a lot of opportunity coming up with the infrastructure bill, the LONO program and the bus facility, which is really where you get your money for projects like this, is over $1 billion this cycle. And that grant is due in May. And so we'll be applying and having a solid second opportunity should the TIRSIP not play out. And that program will continue for the next 4 years, probably at $1 billion rate or more. So it was the foresight of the board to get the design underway and the engineering underway. And I just think if you can look back 2 or 3 years from now, you will have seen that you've made a lot of right moves in getting the agency set up for the future.
Terrific comments, because to go from 40 to 60, that's a 50% increase in the number of buses. That is a significant crowded rooms in the back, that's for sure. I wondered, Michael, if you could just answer, we talked a lot about TIRSA funds, but what's the estimate for a project like this? Is it a 20 million, a 50 million? What's your ballpark? I know we don't have bids yet, but.
So we applied with the TIRSA grant program. That's the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program. It's really the program at the state level that eyes projects just like this. And we applied for $20 million for your maintenance facility with a match of $4 million. And that's kind of in your committed reserves. And I'm sure that the FNA will be looking at that as they look at the budget in April. And then the hydrogen fueling station, we wanted to build it to a scale where we could actually fuel nearly 100 buses with that facility. So that is a $10 million facility. So your TIRSIP application has a request of $30 million for those two items. And then the operations and admin facility, which will be part of real near future grant applications. Tone, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's in the neighborhood of a $15 million project, order of magnitude wise.
If we sell hydrogen, would we be able to make a bit of a profit if other buses need a hydrogen fueling station in the area? You know, the Google buses and the transit for employers buses. Could we actually make some margin on that?
You know, we've chatted about that, and I think the desire of staff is to try and find a way that that hydrogen station could be used by other agencies. And so, yeah, theoretically, if we buy low, we could probably sell with a little bit of a margin there. And I know that the Valley Link project is really looking at an opportunity to not only have the hydrogen station, but to produce the hydrogen at the station. And that's really where you get into a more of a golden opportunity to create a margin there and make money for the agency long term.
Okay, great. All right, I jumped in with questions. Anyone else have any questions on this agenda item? Okay, do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak on this agenda item? Please raise your virtual hand and you will be called on. As noted, we'd like to keep you to about 3 minutes if possible.
We do have one person, Herb Hastings.
Hello, Herb.
Herb, you've got 3 minutes to speak. You can start now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can.
Okay, mine is basically the casual, it's not for the other, it's mainly for the administrative building, is to make, I'm just making a request of making sure that during the design phase for the interior of the admin building, which is where a lot of your passengers and eventually the advisory committee members are going to be hopefully coming, hopefully by then we won't be in virtual world, is that we get a chance to take a look at the interior of the design before it's in construction so we can assist in making the building accessible appropriately. That's all my comment.
All right, I'm sure Anthony is listening about that. We have lots of folks that come and go and everyone needs to be accessible.
That is correct. We've been working very closely with Michael and Tone to make sure that the interior programming of the building is accessible.
And the restrooms.
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, let's see. I think we need it's informational only. So thank you very much for your staff presentation. All right, lots of good stuff. Okay, agenda item 8 is the FTA section 5311 funding authorization resolution. And I see Jennifer Yeomans on. Yay, all right. So could we have a staff presentation, please?
Sure thing. Good afternoon, Board of Directors. I'll take this item as well as the next item, and these will both be action items for you. These are both resolutions required to include with forthcoming grant applications that the agency will be preparing for next year's operating budget for FY23. The first one under agenda item 8.1 is for FTA section 5311 funding. This is federal funding that's made available to public transit operators to provide service in non-urbanized areas. I will not expound the definitions of non-urbanized, but just summarize and tell you that parts of the Route 14 in particular that operate on the extended Stone Ridge Drive past the outlets, these are still based on 2010 census definitions and so still qualifies as non-urbanized areas. And so we will be applying for some funding to support a portion of Route 14 operations. We will be including updated funding assumptions compared to what's in your staff report. These would normally go to F&A instead of the full board for consideration ahead of time, but you all get to hear the whole thing today. So we'll update depending on how the budget assumptions play out for next year, but it won't affect the amount requested either way. So this item is to request that the board approve resolution 10-2022 in support of an application for FTA section 5311 funds for fiscal year 23 operations.
Sounds good. Asking for money is always a good thing, especially since this is an expensive operation as we've been going over today. Any questions of staff? Seeing no hands raised, do we have any comments or anyone from the public that would like to speak?
I don't see anybody with their hand raised right now. Brittany has her hand raised. Public, there's nobody with their hand raised, and I didn't get any public comment via email.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Brittany raised her hand, right? As we were getting ready to look for public, I will close the public hearing. Director Kick, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I was just gonna move approval.
I like it. All right, I need a second.
Second, Josie.
Okay, motion's made by Kick, seconded by Josie. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Bonanno,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hubbard's absent. Director Hernandez,
Aye.
Director Josie,
Aye.
Director Kick,
Aye.
Director Narum, Director Narum,
Aye.
Chair Brown.
Yes, aye.
Motion passes.
Great, terrific. Okay, agenda item 9, the resolution in support of allocation of requests for fiscal year 21-22 funding through the state low carbon transit operations program.
So much of what I commented about the previous item applies to this item. It's just a necessary resolution in support of our annual allocation request. This is a slightly different program. It is a state program familiarly known as LAVTA. And it is a kind of a flexible program in terms of supporting either capital or operating needs that lower greenhouse gas emissions quantifiably. Since the COVID-19 pandemic began, we have been, to the extent we've been able to, flexing this fund source to support operations instead of capital needs. And so next year's request is proposed to support the restoration of rapid service back to 15 minutes on the peak in the AM and PM peak. So I think this ties directly into the previous discussion the board of directors had about our ability to staff those service increases in order to be able to utilize fund sources like this. So that is pretty much the summary. You can see that, again, the budget is based on a previous assumption about what the cost per hour would be, but it won't affect the amount requested if we change what our hourly rate will be going forward into FY23. So if there's no other questions, I will just recommend that the board approve resolution 11-2022 in support of an allocation request to the LC-TOP program.
Okay, let me go through the process. Any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, anything from the public? Anyone like to speak on this agenda item 9?
If you have anybody that would like to speak, please raise your hand. No one's raising their hand as an attendee, and I didn't receive any public comment via email.
Terrific. I will close the public hearing, bring it back to the board, see what we'd like to do. Board Member Kick.
You are all getting to see our FNA meeting because Hernandez and I had a conflict, so we couldn't do it this month. So I will move approval again. Thank you for sitting with us, everybody.
Sure.
Thanks,
Brittany.
Do we need a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made by Kick, seconded by Narum. Please take a roll call vote.
Director Bonanno,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hubbard's absent. Director Hernandez,
Aye.
Director Josie,
Aye.
Director Kick,
Aye.
Director Narum,
Aye.
Chair Brown. Chair Brown.
Yep. Aye, thank you.
Motion passes.
Fine. I'm trying to find my, okay, we're on to the agenda item 10, which is our executive director's report. Mr. Tree, it's all yours.
All right, I appreciate it. You know what, if it would be okay, I'd like to just take like 30 seconds and show you a couple of pictures that I just think speak volumes to your staff, and really was kind of one of the reasons why we just wanted to work so hard over the last 30 days to talk about their wages and trying to get them up to a market rate. Let me just share something with you real quick. Oh, there we go. Hold on a second. Did that share okay? Can you see the monument sign?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to try and. So this picture here, as we began the pandemic, you have about you have about 80 or 90 rapid stops in your system. And as you know, they're really elegant. They have a lot of nice infrastructure. The shelters are beautiful with contemporary glass. And about half of your shelters and your rapid medallion signs, which is what you see here, were really deteriorating pretty quick. And I mean, you can see the rust there on that sign. This is a sign that's on East Avenue. But if you went through and looked carefully at each of the bus stops in the rapid, in early 2020, you would have seen a similar look. And so staff was really pretty worried about this. We had gotten some independent cost estimates to go through and to prep and paint. And we were looking at about a $400,000 to a $500,000 expenditure to just get these rapid stops painted and back to good condition. And when COVID hit, you know, a lot of the buses weren't on the road, and we had a small but a willing maintenance staff with a lot of talent. And so we approached them, you know, in anybody's job description, there's always that little "and other work is assigned" clause in there. And we talked to them about going out to each one of these 41 bus stops and taking care of this issue, prepping the medallion signs, prepping the shelters, the framework of the shelter that look very similar to what you see here with the medallion sign. And so for several months, 4 members of the maintenance crew went out daily. And this is the exact same bus stop after they got done with it. And I got to tell you, this picture was taken today. So this was actually renovated by the maintenance staff 2 years ago, right at the beginning of 2020. But I just wanted to show you the difference between what it looked like before and what it looked like after your maintenance staff did something that is just not typically in their day-to-day job description. They didn't charge us extra. They just went out and basically did good. And so here's just one other picture I wanted to show you. This was right in the heart of COVID, where they were out really in nice design suits. This is right smack in the middle of COVID, and going out and working this. So I added up very quickly what we spent in materials and what we spent in labor. Obviously they were already here and already on the clock, whether they were working on a bus, working on a bus stop. But I went ahead and just added in their labor just for the sake of it. And they saved the agency $266,000 in the maintenance and the upgrade of those shelters from where they were to where they are now. So, you know, that was just an example of why I think you got the best employees ever here. It's a tight family at LAVTA, and you know, everybody has everybody's back at going out and getting stuff done. So before I did anything with the executive director's report, I just wanted to let you know, just the quality you have from the operators to the maintenance crew to other support staff for operations to the LAVTA, family employees.
Yeah. Hey, well, thank you. I know I'm speaking on behalf of the entire board. It looks tremendous. It looks like something that is in keeping with the quality of Dublin, Livermore, and Pleasanton. Is that on a rotation now, so that someone's inspecting it every few years so it doesn't get to that condition, and we can put a coat of paint on it or whatever you're resurfacing with before it gets to such a degraded, and obviously looks like mild steel, so we really don't want any weakening of those posts.
Yeah, we do have it on a rotation now, kind of a capital maintenance plan. That paint job should last 5 years. So they do inspect every month each of the shelters to kind of evaluate the conditions and upgrade them and fix them where they need to be fixed. But that was something that crept up really quickly. It seemed like one year they looked great, and the next year all of a sudden, they looked the way they did in that picture. So
looks fabulous. Thank you.
So you have several items in the executive director's report. Your project and services committee spent time on each of these as they reviewed in their meeting. The ridership is creeping along in the right direction, but not a whole lot of momentum as we await the right conditions for your commuter market to come back and enjoy riding your system. We've already heard about Atlantis, your design of your operations and maintenance facility. April 6th is a huge date for you. Your paratransit proposals are due, and we'll get a first glimpse of what that impact that might have on your budget. We have budgeted pretty conservative, so I don't think we'll be surprised too much, but I do think with fuel prices the way they are and labor costs where they are, it will be interesting to see how the proposers approach that in a multi-year contract. There's other items here, your zero emission bus rollout plan and how that's going, your Dublin parking garage update. That project's going in a good direction, meeting deadlines, and so it continues to move forward. Your budget, we've talked about that it'll be in front of your F&A committee this month for your first look at fiscal year 23. A huge thank you to board members Jean Josie and Brittany Kick, who have been working on the Tri-Valley Transportation Council subcommittee. They are looking at an expenditure plan for developer fees going into the future and have really managed in that subcommittee to incorporate LAVTA into that expenditure plan. We were kind of left out, and they have worked us right back into the picture for funding, so that in particular, as we do the Dublin Boulevard extension, public transit improvements, rapid improvements are incorporated into that construction. And then in meeting with your chair, Carla Brown, we've talked about my up and coming leaving of the agency. And she has asked that, just so that the board understands order of magnitude wise what's going on behind the scenes with projects, she asked me to put the management action plan, which is really an executive tool that I use really to just get quick snapshots of where we are with various projects. She asked me to put that together and include it with the executive director's report. So you might have had a chance. If you haven't, therein lies really all the work that a pretty small staff is pushing forward on a daily basis. And then you have your statistics, which really speak to a recovery of the COVID that's going well, but probably not as fast as we all hope. And I think, again, as mentioned, just kind of finalizing my comments, the big thing here is these projects, but it's also getting operators on board, trained and licensed and ready to go. And I think staff has a very aggressive game plan, and what you've done today with the wages will really complement that and give us the ability to move forward with more momentum in bringing operators on board. So with that said, I'll just close my comments, and certainly I'm around and available for questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the shout out for TVTC to board members that are sitting here on our organization. Keeping an eye open for us. You've got 3 or 4 of us on ACTC as well. So this is a pretty powerful leadership group. Do we have any questions from the executive director's report? All right, seeing none, I do appreciate you putting together the summary of all of the projects that you're working on. It is extensive. And as you said, you've got a hardworking staff, that's for sure. And we appreciate them significantly, all the work that they do and continue to do to make the organization look good, even the light poles or even the R poles for rapid. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak on the executive director's report?
There is one person, Herb Hastings.
I was going to guess Herb. Hello, Herb. What would you like to talk about with our executive director report?
Mr. Tree, that's a big no-no. How could you do such a nasty job? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, I had to put okay, I heard about it from Tom. You can kill him for Tom. No, it's been a wonderful job. I've appreciated your support and your assistance, and enjoyed our lunch breaks every once in a while we've had. And do not disappear from me, because I do have your cell phone yet. And I will keep in touch, okay? Otherwise, it's been wonderful getting to know you, and keep in touch, okay?
All right. Something tells me he's going to get a new cell phone number, but I don't know. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Michael, for your presentation. And now I've had my, at this time, I'm going to adjourn this meeting to close session. Please exit out of this meeting and click on the link that will allow us to have a discussion about the executive director because it is a public employment, and we will have our attorney, Michael Conran, with us as well. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, as we wait for the rest of our team to come back to our open session. Here we go. Okay. Michael Connerin.
You ready?
Okay, we are streaming. So I'm going to reconvene back to open session for agenda item 13, and agenda item 14 is matters initiated by board members. So we could place these with support by
Just a
others.
moment. We should just report out that the board did meet in closed session. There was no reportable action taken.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. All right, matters initiated by the board of directors for a future agenda. Anybody have any recommendations? Okay. All right. Seeing none, our next meeting is scheduled for May 2nd, and this meeting is adjourned. Thanks.
Thank you.